We don't have our voice of Neo Tokyo News today, Shamsi, with us. Couldn't make it, but he did help a lot in the preparation, putting this thing together, so shout out to him. Well, first off, we'll just talk about this topic. This is something that Shamsi wrote about a couple weeks ago, and we've maintained a nice little group of ENS enthusiasts and people who are deep into this ecosystem. We've got a little chat going as we've done a couple spaces with them already in the past months. And there's been some developments recently with Shopify integrating sign-in with Ethereum and just, upping their blockchain technology integration with their token-gated marketplace and whatnot. So that has been a bullish item that has definitely come up in the last few weeks that we've written about and covered. And then we will definitely get into the overall ENS scene and the market and the debates that are raging around this whole ENS Ethereum name service. So for guests, we have our regular writer and contributor to Neo Tokyo News, Phoenix Down, who has covered the ENS scene. I believe you also write for them. What is that group that you write for also, Phoenix?
It's Web3 Domains, founded by Gary Palmer Jr. and Ada.eth. Very prominent individuals in ENS.
Awesome. Well, glad you could make it. We also have K-Trap, who's known throughout the Citadel and throughout the metaverse for his very informative threads that he's dropping, very active here on Twitter, dropping information about the ENS latest trends, a lot of the digits marketplace. He got a good update earlier today, a thread that we should pin here and let people check out. Then we have the Cap himself, who was recently voted on as a delegate for ENS, right? So he's well integrated into the scene and is doing his best to help move that whole decentralized organization into a bright future with his good ideas. You also have another project in the ENS scene. What was that one called again? The name?
It's called Namespace, and it's one of the first websites that provides subname management with the upcoming name wrapper that's about to go live on ENS. So that's going to be a whole lot of fun when that happens. Yeah.
Right on. And then a new person to our crew here, ENS Punks. Maybe you can give a little intro and tell us a little background about yourself.
Yeah, thank you. So IRL, I'm a corporate lawyer. Don't hold that against me. I found my way into Web3, and I like to say, this technology has sort of helped wash the law out of my eyes and embrace decentralization, code is law sort of approach. And I just really, found a number of NFT projects, helped some clients launch some things in the space. And one of those projects led me to ENS, and I've really embraced it from the very beginning. And, I came across a bunch of people. At the time, there was only about 200 people who had websites on their ENS names. And I found myself surfing the web again, so that probably dates me to use that term. But, it's like, wow, the internet is fun again. And so I began to build websites. And then the DAO was created, again, as a corporate lawyer. Decentralized autonomous organizations is sort of my bread and butter, governance. And, these are things that really fascinate and interest me. And so ENS really has everything I personally like about, and it'll kind of like everything within the space, also IP, intellectual property. So I'm a builder. I am, passionate. I'm a true believer in the technology of decentralization. And so that's just a little bit about me. People will find I tend to get on my soapbox, and once I start talking, it's hard to stop me. So I'll step down now and kind of see where this goes. But thank you for the invite. Our girl Drea.eth, she's down there. Really should have been her. She kind of gave me the referral. So big thank you to her and Cap for the
big
invite.
shout out to our girl Drea. Yeah, thank you for suggesting those people. And ENS Banks was the one who immediately said yes. So we're here, and I'm really, really happy to meet you, man, because I've been seeing you in a lot of spaces, and you have some really, really cool and like very well thought out like ideas, and just when you provide like feedback or just like your thoughts on certain topics, they're like spot on. So yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you, during this space and hopefully onwards.
Yeah, it would be great to get Drea up here too if she wants to contribute to the conversation. That'd be awesome. Not sure if she's over at ETH Denver. I know a lot of folks we were trying to touch base to participate in this one. We're over there. Quite a lot going on at that conference. You know much about that, Kat?
She told me she was working in her like day job, but yeah, if she's willing to jump in, like she's more than welcome to. Yeah, anytime you want to jump in, just request to speak, and the floor will be yours.
Yeah, definitely. ETH Denver is another big event. I don't know if anybody here is there, but if anybody's listening is up there, you want to give a report how things are going at some point in this talk, definitely raise your hand. We'll bring you up for a insider news report. But to get it going, we did want to review this topic that Chomsky brought up, of course, what's going on with Shopify and this sign-in with Ethereum. Anyone feel confident to give a little recap of what that is and how it impacts the whole ENS scene?
So sign in with Ethereum. It's really not limited by any means to ENS. It's just sort of ENS takes it to the next level. But so let's start with kind of the two, fundamental benefits of ENS. Number one, if you were to want me to send you some Ethereum or another token, I'm going to ask, what's your wallet address? And it's going to be very difficult, especially in a Twitter space, to give me your, hexadecimal address, OX, followed by 2848 characters. ENS solves that with human readable names. And then, hey, like I'm rocking prideflag.eth. It also, utilizes emojis, which can be fun. But, if you wanted to send me some Ethereum or any other token, I'd simply tell you enspunks.eth, and boom, you'll be able to send me Ethereum, Bitcoin, Doge, Litecoin. It supports not just Ethereum ERC20 tokens, but another 100 tokens on top of it. And then what sign-in with Ethereum is, it's sort of the Web3 solution to taking your identity across the different platforms. So in Web 2, you might have initially started out by creating an account with an email address and a password, and then you get your Twitter handle. Well, you don't own your Twitter handle. You can't buy and sell and trade Twitter handles, and you certainly can't take your Twitter handle over to Instagram. But that's what sign-in with Ethereum attempts to solve. Basically, no more email, password, no more, Apple, sign in with Apple, sign in with Google, sign in with Twitter. We're just going to use our crypto wallet and we're going to sign in. And again, that first step, you don't need an ENS name to sign in with Ethereum. But again, the ENS name does replace your hexadecimal address, which is, the human readable name, which is really nice. And that's going to really make, identity across Web3 something special. Nobody's going to want their identity to OX, 42 characters. They're going to want something special. And so that's the combination of sign-in with Ethereum and ENS. And the way Shopify's decided to integrate it is, so if you're familiar with Shopify, basically if you want, to sell things on the internet, you can go to Shopify. It's a web builder for merchants. You could list your products for sale, nice, simple web builder. And anybody who's going to go on your website, your Shopify website to buy something, they would have to log in. And so by adopting sign-in with Ethereum, again, they've replaced email, password, they've replaced sign-in with Google, sign-in with Apple, sign-in with Twitter, and now you can, use your MetaMask. You can use whatever crypto wallet to, one-click sign-in. No more username and password. No more third-party handles. It's all taken care of with sign-in with Ethereum.
Yeah, one thing that seems most exciting about that whole concept is around data privacy and owning your own data. Because I know, like, it's really easy. We get to these websites and they give you this offer to sign in with Facebook, sign in with Google. But when we're doing that, we are definitely contributing to giving away our data. I know this has been a topic that does come up quite often. A lot of times in our society nowadays, people don't even think about it. But could anyone here just discuss that whole idea of how this is helping with data privacy, owning your own data?
What signing with Ethereum provides to end users is to have basically self-sovereignty over their data. So what that means essentially is that you literally keep everything. They coined this term called backpack data, and it basically means like you carry your data with you everywhere you go, and it's sort of like basically your wallet address. And what data, all of the data combined from like many different sources, like your basically some attestation, your decentralized identifiers like ENS names or lens names or other naming systems and stuff like that. All of these things combined basically create your online Web3 decentralized identity. And signing with Ethereum is special in a way that allows you to own this data. And whenever you go to some website, and instead of like logging through centralized parties, like that is their the biggest unique selling proposition, I believe, is that they literally remove third-party logging credentials providers. Basically, they call this like a zero party data or something like that. Basically, where you literally just own your data, and instead of like when you connect to like whatever, like I don't know, Instagram or somewhere, and you have to think in terms like how does Instagram basically provide the custom like feed for you and all of this stuff, and basically they monitor your activity. And based on your activity, based on your likes, based on your comments, they provide you with very tailored experience to increase like your engagement and like make you stay on the app. Where like when you have sign in with Ethereum, basically you are in control of everything that you like and that you own. So in this case, Instagram would only take like a peek at your contents, like the what you have in your wallet, what you've done with your data, what kind of like credentials you have, what kind of pull-ups you have, what kind of NFTs you have, and all of that stuff. And if those guys have something to offer to you, they are literally then offering based on your based on the contents of your wallet. So that's like this big thing that that signing with Ethereum provides. Obviously, like on the face of it, they are basically like a token gated like a front end that allows you to sign messages. In order to verify that it's your wallet, that basically this is your wallet. And people, a lot of like one of the biggest questions everyone asks is like, but we already do that. Like we go to, I don't know, to GMX to trade and we click connect wallet. And like, what is the difference between connect wallet and sign it with Ethereum? So basically when you connect wallet, you just provide just one single transaction to prove that you can like control this wallet or something like that. But when you have sign it with Ethereum integrated, you basically have to sign the transaction with your private key that you control this wallet that you had just signed on. And like that just opens now a whole bunch of crazy possibilities and many different things. I hope I didn't butcher that, but I hope it makes sense.
Yeah, that made sense, Cap. Cheers. I was listening to that and I was thinking, sometimes, we're in a bubble, aren't we? We're in our crypto bubble. Do you think this is going to reach out to a more mainstream? Do you think this is a big deal, really, for mainstream? Obviously, the general public aren't using MetaMask, are they? we're a long way off that. So do you think this will matter at all to anybody outside of our little bubble?
Oh, yes. But there's a lot of different things that need to happen in order for all of this to be achieved. Like with these like things like decentralized identifiers with like names and verifiable credentials and attestation protocols and like data layers and all of this stuff, like that is just so early that it's at this point, like I can pretty safely say that there's like probably hundreds of people that know and understand the future potential of this. Like even I'll read about it and I'll sort of understand it, but unless someone like who really knows very clearly about this can provide me with some examples, then my mind just goes like, oh yeah, and then I can expand on many different examples. But it's so early that it just requires like a lot of brain power to process all of this and come up with a real like utility and actually foresee when this is going to go mainstream. But one of the things I believe that all of this has to, one of the things that I believe has to happen before all of this goes stream is this concept of account abstraction, which is basically having the wallets that provide that are provided not by directly from the blockchain, but by like smart contract. What that essentially means, like you can have some programmable features on that smart contract that provides you with some wallet. And one of the big things why they are pursuing that is that they would have like this type of like social recovery mechanism for wallets, because that is the biggest concern right now. That is just one of the things, right? So also with namespace, I've sort of like, I've been working on like presentation and trying to kind of think about like, what is the namespace, like what is our mission? Then I go back to like, what is the thing that ENS needs to achieve? And I spoke about this some time ago, and I said like the mission of ENS and namespace by that extent is to change the culture in Web3, so that so when people ask like, what is your wallet? Like, send me your wallet. People don't send those chunky strings anymore. They send you some decentralized identifiers such as ENS name, lens name, or ID name or .cc name or whatever. So that is that. So and the road to there is like very, very long, I believe. But yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, should be interesting. We'll see. Probably a couple of years off though, aren't we? But thanks for explaining. My tiny brain is still wrapping its way around all this, but I can understand about 50% of your explanation. Thank you, Cap.
For sure. If anyone has like anything to add, like feel free to. I'm learning I'm literally like learning and reading and studying, and it's really helpful when you get to explain it, because I don't know about you guys, but like in real life, there's really no one around who I can talk about, like who I can talk to about stuff like this. So this is very valuable when you like you read something and you know it, but like when it comes the time to explain it, it's very, very difficult. So then you start questioning yourself: do I really know this? Do I understand it? But yeah, if anyone like, by the way, I have to say, like, there's a lot of people in the who are listening. If anyone has like either any question or like anything valuable to add, maybe you are, I don't know, a developer expert in Web3 identity, like feel free to request to speak. Like we'd love to hear just your thoughts and all of that.
Yeah, I was going to say the part about Shopify that's really encouraging for the Web3 space is. I don't know if you guys realize like how huge of a company that is, but 2021 posted $4.6 billion in revenue, and they have 1.7 million businesses using the platform. And one of the exciting parts of the toolkit that they're rolling out is this token gating concept. And so you have this idea of introducing these 1.7 million businesses to the idea of token gating certain parts of their store only for holders of certain NFT assets. And I think that's really exciting to think about, just the implications of such a huge company rolling out with sign-in with Ethereum, and all of that's going to be made possible by that. It's pretty amazing.
It's mind-blowing, I'm gonna say it. And this is probably the biggest like boss move that any Web2 company has ever done. I swear, like this is like, talk about making one or like a few key decisions at the right time. Like they have in a very short period of time, like single-handedly just wiped out the competition of like merchants when it comes to onboarding Web3 people to, to just like combining like Web2 merchants with like Web3 merchants and Web3 culture. So I mean, big shout out to Shopify. Those guys know what they're doing. This is amazing. But yeah.
If I could jump in and expand on something, so specifically regarding the Shopify integration, I mean, the question was asked, is this going to help sort of let's call them normies? It's a term I hear a lot in this space, normies, onboard into crypto, and I think Cap and K-Trap did a wonderful job of answering that. And the short of answer is yes. There's probably no better mechanism for adoption than sign in with Ethereum. Basically, it number one, by its very nature, it's integrated into Web 2 platforms, and so it's onboarding the Web 2 individuals. And then the second thing is it's non-financial. So maybe even normies, if they're sort of adverse to a crypto wallet or crypto in general, probably the reason why is they may have heard a horror story, or it's all financial. And now you've got this sort of integral tool that is non-financial in nature. I mean, this is infrastructure for the internet. And what I mean by that is, you can find all sorts of Web 2 tech startups whose singular focus is solving login. There's plenty of startups that have millions of dollars in venture capital funding to figure out the problems with logging in and passwords, forgetting passwords. I mean, that's a real problem. And kind of like Cap and K-Trap expanded on, it might not be ready for the masses, but certainly it is ready to onboard a significant majority of people who aren't already in the ecosystem, because downloading a MetaMask, using the MetaMask browser, that's simple enough. Again, if you can create an account in a Web 2 platform with an email and password, or use your Twitter login, Google login, you can certainly do this. It's no different. And then one thing I'll kind of expand on, I think Cap opened the door to it, like, what are the other benefits, and sort of asking these questions sort of regarding, this idea of ownership. I always say, look, people, normies, have this misconception of what the metaverse is. Oh, the metaverse, it's this 3D cartoon world that Mark Zuckerberg is building over at Meta. No, the metaverse is an idea of ownership, of taking back, owning, and controlling your data, your identity, which all these centralized entities own. They monetize it. And so, as a lawyer who deals with intellectual property and branding, again, it's you have your ENS identity, for example, ENS punks. And if that were my company, my brand, I don't need to worry about, luckily enough, I got ENS punks on Twitter, but now I don't have it on the other platforms, on Snapchat, on YouTube, I've got the ENS, and now I take my identity with me, just like I take my NFTs or anything else in the crypto world, from platform to platform using sign-in with Ethereum. And as a company, as a brand, you cannot minimize how important that is. And I always say this as a lawyer, intellectual property is the most valuable intangible asset owned by a business. For a company like Meta or the banks, the big brands, their intellectual property is worth more than the rest of their companies. Even a company like Nike, worth more than all their assets, all their buildings, all their shoes, everything they have that's physical and tangible. Their intellectual property, their ownership over the Nike logo, over the swoosh logo, is worth more than everything else. And now you truly own it and can take it from platform to platform. So that would sort of be the evolution for businesses, which probably would be, the next step once you get the masses on board with something like signing with Ethereum.
So this is intellectual property, and we're talking about the ENS itself. I've still been trying to, like as Phoenix say, like wrap my head around how that is significant, outside of the ENS community. How does that hold weight? I mean, will it? I mean, more so if Ethereum just takes over and is the predominant, method for interacting online or something. But how is that intellectual property seen as value in the larger world? Maybe going back to ENS punks there for that.
Yeah. So again, never mind Web3. With all Web2 companies, intellectual property is the value in a company. It's the majority of the value of a company. And, we're all here in Web3, so we probably got a very firm understanding of this. Before NFTs, it was very difficult to monetize your digital assets. And certainly on secondary sales, it was basically impossible. So you dealt with pirating, you dealt with basically inability to monetize secondary sales, and the blockchain has solved that. So that's one thing. There's different forms of intellectual property. You got copyright, trademark, and then you got patents. So one quick example, I might give a couple. Feel free to cut me off. I don't know if you're kind of a little older like me, you might be familiar with GeoCities. In 1999, GeoCities was the third largest website in the world. It was acquired by Yahoo. To put it in perspective, Yahoo bought it for $3.9 billion. Meanwhile, they passed up on acquiring Google for $1 billion. Probably the biggest blunder of all times. Just 10 short years later, in 2009, they did what big tech does, and they killed the product. They killed the product over the objections of their passionate community of users, tens of millions of users, hundreds of millions of websites. That's what GeoCities was a website builder before we had social media. The way you got online and expressed yourself was building your own website. And hundreds of millions of websites were deleted off the internet, just gone, wiped from the GeoCities servers. Well, I registered geocities.eth, I built on it, and I filed a trademark application, and I was awarded the trademark registration. So I'm the successor owner of the GeoCities trademark from Yahoo. And it's just one example. You can build on these things. You can build your brands on these things. And again, that is the idea. It gets into the idea, again, a little bit of regular domain names where if you were to go to GoDaddy and you were to register Neo Tokyo, well, the very first thing you do is you sign the GoDaddy terms and conditions. And those terms and conditions include provisions from ICANN. GoDaddy contracts with them, is subject to their terms and conditions. ICANN runs domains in Web 2. GoDaddy would be an example of a registrar. And I go to register Neo Tokyo. First thing I do is waive my legal rights. No matter where I am in the world, I say, I will not avail myself to my local laws. I will subject myself to ICANN's policies, rules, and procedures, one of which is called UDRP, Uniform Domain Name Dispute Resolution Program. And hey, if I registered somebody else's trademark, the trademark owner can drag me before ICANN. And, maybe, I don't know, it's a term in law, at least in the U.S. we call ADR, alternative dispute resolution. It's stuff like mediation, arbitration. And it's not the U.S. laws where I'm located. It's not the laws where you're located that get applied. It's ICANN's rules. So you bring your trademark from anywhere in the world, and all of a sudden, I'm turning over the domain I registered to you. ENS is not subject to ICANN. It is fully decentralized. So if you register a name that happens to be trademarked, the trademark owner is not going to be dragging you in front of ICANN. You never signed away your legal rights. There are no terms and conditions to the blockchain. And so there's additional protections because you don't waive your legal rights. And now all of a sudden, you're subject to your local law. So the trademark holder might be in the U.S. You're located in another country. That trademark holder might not have any rights in your local country. So it's a whole different world where one of the things I think is so great is there's additional legal protections.
Can I ask a follow-up question there? Everyone pretty much in ENS is expecting and working towards ENS becoming included in the top-level domain register, basically, that would require ICANN's approval and all of these like other organizations that sort of maintain the DNS. So does that mean that in the future, all of the names that had been registered on ENS, like .eth names, that in the Web2 world have like intellectual property or patents or whatever, does that mean that they would have to be like forfeited or something, or like what happens then? Because like it's inevitable. I truly believe that like one next big thing for ENS is basically they've already created a bridge for Web2 companies to seamlessly and gas free basically port their entire business through ENS's manager app in Web3. So I truly believe that's the next big thing that's coming for ENS. So I'm just curious what happens. Like, well, what do you see like the top one or top three biggest changes that will happen? Once ENS becomes included in the top level domain ranks.
So Cap, I'll try to limit in scope. It is a bit of a hypothetical, opens up a can of worms. So the ENS native extension is .eth, but I want everybody here, make no mistake, ENS is not .eth, just like Cap said. It is a protocol. So if you own your .com, if you own your .whatever TLD in the Web2 world, there's about 3,000 of them, 2,000 to 3,000. You can import that TLD, that DNS name, into ENS. That's what ENS is. It just so happens they do have the native .eth. Now, it's a function that's kind of underutilized, but to my point, if you wanted to experiment, open up your MetaMask and put in enspunks.eth, and you'll see a green check, and you'll see, oh, there's a hexadecimal address connected to enspunks.eth. Now try game.com, and you'll also get a green check, and you'll get a hexadecimal address, because game.com has imported their DNS into ENS. And so along this lines, what I'll say is the .eth extension. In theory, there is a .eth extension that's reserved. It doesn't exist, but it's reserved for the country of Ethiopia. They already own .et. So most of the countries that have, in fact, I think all the countries that have a TLD, it's 2 letters. But at least some of them, if not all of them, have a 3-letter reserved for them as well. So Ethiopia, .et, and then they also have .eth reserved. Now, again, this is all private contract law. So ICANN might in the future decide we're going to release the 3-letter TLDs for countries. And if they do that for .eth, it is already reserved for Ethiopia. Now, ENS, apparently, there's been some tweets from some individuals who are involved with the project, like Brantley, that they've been in talks with Ethiopia. They're actually trying to secure the rights from Ethiopia should the .eth ever be released by ICANN, that in fact they'll kind of like either sublease it or whatever kind of legal rights, legal contract to kind of give those over to ENS. But ICANN has sort of stated they have no intent to release those 3-letter extensions anywhere in the near future. Should they do that, and should ENS contract with the country of Ethiopia for the .eth extension in DNS, there could certainly, again, it's a private contract, there certainly could be a requirement. Ethiopia might say, look, in order for us to, sublease or whatever the proper term might be for that contract, that extension to ENS, you would have to subject yourself to ICANN, UDRP, that stuff I just went over, which means subjecting yourself to their rules, policies, procedures, that UDRP deal, so trademark enforcement. Again, it's a little bit of speculation, but in general, that's sort of how the legal process would proceed, and a little bit of the practical stuff in terms of that specific extension.
Love getting these free legal consultations. Always very useful. We do have the real deal. Paul Turner just jumped up on stage. I don't know if you got a little comment or question you wanted to.
Yeah, I just thought I would maybe share a comment and then maybe a question. so my comment is that ultimately this stuff requires adoption. So I think that will take time. And I think that there are some already mentioned there with the ETH domain that obviously if there's a negotiation where Ethiopia has an agreement with ENS for a period of time, maybe you could make use of the .eth standard web domain, but that would always be a risk of sorts, right? So I feel like there's an attack surface in any case for this kind of thing where even if it's on-chain, even if it's an Ethereum identity, you're relying on the market to recognize those identities, right? So I've been listening for a while, so I heard that Stripe and other companies are beginning to support these identities. So I guess what I'm saying is that it'll take time to reach a certain level of adoption where it becomes the thing, it becomes natural and it becomes something that every business will do. I also know that there is a bit of a competitive with Jack Dorsey and what he calls Web 5. I don't know why he skipped over 4, but his version of this is the BTC version of it. So I think that this general kind of authenticate with your crypto identity is definitely moving forward. I just think that it's going to take time to see where the adoption goes so that you do have this universal sign-in that's being described. I think it's wonderful. I think it's going to come, but I just think it'll take time. And there'll probably be a bit of competition along the way. But ultimately, so my question then is more, what are the risks legally in a sense that what they typically do in the crypto space is they don't attack the user, they attack the hosting providers, they attack the gateways, right? So what they'll do is something like saying, okay, you've registered this ENS domain, which is in conflict with an existing copyright. I'm going to issue an edict in, say the US, where all US hosting providers are not to allow transactions that are signed or, logged in. So essentially what I'm saying is I wonder if like some sort of blacklist could emerge. So I'm just curious on any comments from the legal side on that.
It is a fantastic question, the attack vectors and the legal attack vectors. So I always say this when I talk about it in the community. First of all, I always say I'm a lawyer, but I'm not your lawyer.eth, and I'll mint you a subdomain if you need one as a reminder. But, it's a great question. And sort of like I said, if it were a normal domain, they can drag me in front of ICANN. But a lot of people have this misconception about Ethereum. They think, well, I'm fully anonymous, so they'll never find me. Well, odds are they will find you. Trust me, I do a little bit of litigation. The subpoena power is great. Odds are they're going to eventually be able to track. There's probably you used a centralized exchange to fund your wallet or a credit card or something, and that'll come out in a subpoena record if you're violating some intellectual property and they really, you're causing some damages. They wanted to go after you. They probably will find you. And if you're in that jurisdiction, so a U.S. trademark holder, you're violating that U.S. trademark, you're located in the U.S., there's probably a good chance they'll locate you, they'll serve you. And they'll do a traditional lawsuit for damages for infringement. Now, in terms of utilizing the IP service providers, hosting providers to sort of take you down, this is one of the beautiful things about decentralized websites, though. And there's some dangers here as well, separate and apart from attack vectors. So if you're familiar with decentralized websites, there's different mechanisms to use it, but the most dominant one as of right now is IPFS. So this is Interplanetary File System. And it's a decentralized protocol, meaning, hey, go to enspunks.eth. If you're on a Web3 browser, if you're not, use one of these gateways. So add .limo. enspunks.eth.limo. That's a decentralized website, meaning it is not hosted by your typical GoDaddy, your Amazon AWS. This website was deployed on IPFS, decentralized hosting. I don't pay any hosting fees, and it cannot be taken down. So it's sort of the same concept as being on-chain itself, like the ENS names, that, hey, there is no central authority to turn over the name on my behalf as the custodian of the ENS name, that there is no hosting service to send a demand letter, to have a court order sent to say, take this domain down. There could be some more technical issues, though, to your point, where, you might be able to piecemeal it and stop getting people to resolve it. So a little bit different. So it's a mixed bag. It is complex. We haven't seen anything like that. And I think, again, as a lawyer, I look at this and always acknowledge, look, I'm on the side of free speech, censorship resistance, never mind ENS, never mind decentralized websites. I'm talking about decentralized money, censorship resistant money, the foundations of cryptography. But with that comes very real dangers. And I'm not going to get into that aspect of things, but we can all use our imaginations of certain kinds of content being put onto the decentralized web that cannot be taken down. And that presents its own pitfalls and dangers, of course. But, you balance that out with very real threats as well to our free speech and censorship. And it's just, you don't have the same traditional tools to serve, court orders to sort of stop these decentralized websites.
Yeah, no, thanks for that answer. And it's an area that I'm also thinking about in the BTC space with ordinals, censorship, content moderation. So I think these problems don't go away. It gives you more of a decentralized kind of thing to attack, which means that they're likely only going to chase things that really matter, is my thinking. And I would also say that I guess there is also this is not a negative, but this is a user responsibility, right? Is the keys are now in your hands, as we all know. My apes are gone. I used a hot wallet, right? You're now owning your ENS identity, and nobody can reset that for you, right? So it's unlike your Google identity or your Facebook identity, where you can do social proof and 100 points of ID if you forget your password, right? So just saying that ultimately, I think that we will have to see some of the things Vitalik talks about, like social seed phrase recovery, using multi-sigs, right? All these things that we try to protect ourselves with our NFTs, with the other things we do in the Web3 space. If we start adopting this widely, we will need to apply those techniques to make sure that we can safely hold our identities, because there'll be nobody there to back us up. So just wanted to put that out there as well. It's not a negative. It's just trying to acknowledge that with power comes great responsibility, as they say. So
this is definitely, definitely insightful topic here. We're getting deep into. I do want to note, we're coming close to an hour, and I think, we got a lot of degens that like to listen to these and definitely like to know how their investments are doing, where they're going, how to make money, and all that. So that's always something to look at. If we could pivot a bit, I'd love to hear K-Trap's latest thoughts and updates as to the ENS market, where it's at, what are the big challenges or potential stimulants here coming up in these next period here.
Yeah, very interesting times. Wrote a thread this morning about it, and I think it's fascinating to look at the 10K collection that naturally occurs in the 4-digit ENS phenomenon. And one of the things that's fascinating about that is it's sort of this naturally, organically formed NFT collection that is, completely, obviously decentralized. There's no founder. It's sort of anti-ruggable NFT collection, but in essence, it's the first time that we see what we could collectively refer to as an NFT collection, that the holders are faced with having to pony up for a hefty renewal fee. And so there's some, I kind of equated that to uncharted waters, which equals uncertainty, and some of the fear and uncertainty around what happens when you have, in this particular case, of the 4-digit collection minting out late April of 2022. And at that time, most people were renewing or were registering for a 1-year period. And so we're coming up on this 1-year anniversary, and what does that mean? What are the implications? And so there's been quite a bit of speculation and anxious anticipation around that event, and so the floor price has kind of taken a hit down to about 0.87 ETH on the 4-digit collection, and we're at about 13 ETH on the 3-digit 1K collection. So it's going to be really fascinating to see what that triggers. I think everyone will obviously be watching with great anticipation, but I believe that there is an opportunity for us to get past that phase of uncertainty and see how the holder base reacts, how many go into grace, what exactly happens, and then perhaps from that we have a solidification of this consolidation where you have sort of an emergence of, okay, these are the people who are here to hold these long term. And could springboard us into another digit season. So that's basically where we are. Of course, there's also, there's so many subgroups within ENS. I'm particularly fascinated with digits and somewhat with emojis as well because of the universal nature that transcends borders and cultures and languages and alphabets. And, here we live in Twitter land, and our common language is English, and so we kind of tend to think it's an English-speaking world, when in fact it's less than something like 20% of the population speaks English globally. So I think these are important factors to consider in a world that continues to become smaller and smaller, and the global economy also that Web3 enables. These are kind of important factors to think about. So I tend to focus on digits as a fascinating subset of the ENS world. And just in this past 30 days, we've seen almost 1,000 ETH traded in 4-digit ENS names. So it's definitely not going anywhere. I think personally, not financial advice, of course, but holding on to 4 digits and to some degree 5 digits as well as a 100K piece collection to be maintaining a 0.015 ETH floor, all things considered, is pretty impressive. But we're going to have to wait and see what happens with that particular subset. So yeah, a lot of things coming up, a lot to keep an eye on. And ENS definitely though is facing some challenging times as we see 3 letters. The 3-letter names are struggling to stay registered, and so that's kind of dovetailed into this big debate about renewal fees and should they be lower. We had ENS 878 as a listener on here for a few minutes, I noticed, and he wrote a huge proposal about lowering renewal fees so that you can kind of maintain this strengthened base on these important metrics that people who go way back in the domain prospecting space kind of look at as sort of a litmus test as to the strength of an extension. So yeah, there's a lot going on, and it's really a fascinating time to be involved in the ENS space. So that's kind of what I have to say.
If I may add on the updates, there was another really I don't know if it's an interesting proposal, but it was a kind of heated discussion around whether the remaining 5.4, I believe, million ENS tokens should be distributed among the ENS name holders based on many different criteria. But basically it was a temp check for the second airdrop. So that was really interesting to read through. If anyone is interested, you can find all of this stuff on ENS discussion forum. For someone who's more tech savvy, I literally this morning, a bunch of pull requests have been merged to the main branch on Gerli testnet. When it comes to name wrapper, they've introduced a bunch of crazy cool new functionalities as well. One of them being for rentable subdomains, which they didn't have before. So that's supremely exciting. I don't know what else. There's just so many things.
Yes.
They had spaces with Ledger. I mean, the partnership with Ledger, with signing with Shopify, and then I don't even know if something comes to my mind. I'll throw it in there. But
I want to
Yeah.
just
So many things.
interrupt real quick. I'll send it back to you in a second here, K-Trap, but just we do have an ENS domain to give away. We've got a 6-digit that Chomsky donated. So we want to do that giveaway, and we're going to be having people retweet today's Neo Tokyo news post, which we just pinned to the top of the space. You can find it pinned also at the top of Neo Tokyo News's profile. So you retweet that, make sure you're following Neo Tokyo and Neo Tokyo News. And in just a few minutes, we'll be doing that giveaway. We'll give people about 5 minutes to retweet that out.
That's a decent digit too. I like that digit. It's got the 30 and then 03 on the end. And a lot of people, in terms of trying to give value to these digits, really place a high premium on zeros. So, could be a good one to hold on to. But
what was the full digit? It's 302903.
Yeah, there you go. So pretty memorable, 302903. Yeah. But yeah, interesting comments, Cap. I think one of the things that's interesting is I think there does tend to be this really high degree of idealism among some in the old school ENS camps, and I just think it's funny because it's like you have these ENS assets that are NFTs, and so I don't know how anyone could not expect that people in this space, especially, are not going to want to speculate on NFT collectible assets. There's sort of this default nature when you see NFTs, especially when you attach unique avatars to these ENS NFTs, that does definitely get this collectible sense about them. And so I'd be interested to hear anyone's thoughts on, how do we, I don't know how you're going to prevent people from, or on a grander level, I don't understand the disdain of anyone who would want to collect and speculate on ENS names. So if anybody wants to chime in, I'm very fascinated in this part of the discussion.
Okay, I'll do it. I think it's really funny. I think ENS people spend most of their lives arguing with each other. It's hilarious. But this is quite a hot topic of conversation, and I think you're right, K-Trap. It's a collection, isn't it? And since the ENS whole ecosystem of all the NFTs have developed into clubs and things like that, there's a lot of tribalism involved. But you're right, it is like collecting in certain parts of the club and stuff like that. And so I know a lot of people. I see a lot of rage towards ENS DAO and to Nick.eth, and I think both sides are just hilarious. They're vicious to each other, which makes great entertainment. But apart from that, I don't think it's good for ENS at all. I think there needs to be, at the end of the day, that nothing's going to change. The ENS DAO has the power, and all of this pushback, I can't really see making much of a difference in their decision making. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much my thoughts on it. It's just funny to watch, but it's quite sad at the same time because I can really see some of the points made for lowering the fees. That's the hot topic of conversation at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I don't see, I don't know, we somewhere in one of our recent threads, we attached a link to this, or no, it was an NT News story today. That's right, where you can hop over to ENS 878's kind of his big proposal, and he just does some math, which I think is kind of logical. I'm not an authority to speak or weigh in too heavily on this topic, but I do think he makes some great points about the math, that if you can lower the fees and get larger numbers in and establish the respect for the extension, that you would, I think one of his strongest points was, if you have people who are looking to get into collecting ENS assets and there emerges other competition in the Web3 space for decentralized names, then, the fact that you have something like approaching half of the 3 letters, I don't know if that's accurate, but some large number of the 3 letters going unregistered, it kind of makes you go, is there? It seems like there's some weakness here in this asset class. So there's some different angles. Of course, I realize everybody's not. I held ENS names for utility long before I was interested in speculating on them as collectibles. So I understand there's a lot of, there's different angles, but he did some math and basically saying that the DAO could actually gain more funding by lowering the prices and kind of lowering that barrier to entry and bolstering some of the strength signals that you would find in the names, such as the 3 letters. Which he kind of compares to web2.com. That he cited one stat where 3-digit domains had not lapsed since 1997. And some interesting points. So worth checking out the NT News article today on that topic.
You said one really interesting thing there, and you said that about increasing the revenue or profit for the DAO, which is really interesting because there are a number of ways this ENS and ENS DAO can earn so much money. But I even remember listening to Nick's podcast, it was way back. I don't even remember how long ago. And he said, if we could, we wouldn't even charge for registering ENS names, right? The only reason why they decided to charge for ENS names, so they can set the expiry date for them so they could, avoid squatters. And I understand that, I guess that's fine, but they take a huge, pride into being a public good. And I really respect that. I really I wouldn't I literally stake my fucking future on ENS because I'm building on it the core central piece of my entire both tech and business model relies on ENS working and being the most dominant naming system in the Web3 world. So there's everything about them that there's a lot of things about them that I really like, but that is one that I just can't wrap my head around, man. I'm not some, as I said, some, I don't know, power hungry capitalist or whatever, to extract the most value out of every single possible, pore from this protocol that we've built. But at the same time, I'm not against shooting our legs off, cutting our legs off, or shooting ourselves in the foot, meaning intentionally not be willing to pursue a little bit of more profit that could be used to fund, let's just double the fund for, funding public goods or ecosystem projects. Let's double the funding for everything. Let's triple the funding. It just doesn't make sense to me to actively not pursue something like that. And this, there's a little more things to be added there, but that's basically the core of it. My thinking about this whole thing is, does certain action, if certain action doesn't compromise on the core values of the DAO, and at the same time can help us increase our funding, our revenue, then I don't see any reason. And at the same time, by the way, you can make the community who had put you, among other things, at the spotlight by just going apeshit crazy about the beautiful protocol that you have built. You can make the community and the core people who are there to in the future help you with the mass adoption by ordering a lot more people through financial incentive. No one is denying that, but they are going to be there and they're going to be working there. You can just kind of make them happy as well. And you're not compromising, as I said, on your core values, the core ethos of your entire organization and all of that. It's why not consider it? I get it that you don't want to do it, but let's have some debate about it. Let's have spaces about it. I just want to hear very good arguments. It was the same thing about airdrop. I was going back and forth for the airdrop, and in the end, I don't even know how it finished. But I think someone else is working there. So hopefully that kind of resurfaces again, and we have more concrete proposal on the next steps and next actions. But Yeah, I don't know. Those are like my 2 cents about the whole thing. If anyone has like very concrete questions, I'm happy to answer.
I think those answers and questions are going to have to wait till our next one. This is why we like to have regular updates on ENS, because we have so much to discuss here, and a lot of people are very enthusiastic about this ecosystem. So I want to give thanks to everybody who jumped up on stage here to discuss this and bring your mana'o, your wisdom here and experience to give us some more understanding what's going on in the space. And I want to pass it over quick to Phoenix Down to give us the results of that giveaway.
Hello. Yeah, done it. And it's the winner is Speedwagon, NFA Arcade. Is he in the space? Yeah, there he is. Speedwagon, you've won the 6-digit ENS. Congratulations. Yeah, we're wrapping up now. We're going to move over. Some of us are going to move over to the Extra Ordinals Discord for their onboarding and AMA, which is starting just about now. I think it's just started. And if you're interested in Ordinals, if you're interested in finding out what Extra Ordinals is about, you should definitely check this out. It's in that tweet thread that you just retweeted. Scroll down a little bit, and there's a link to the Extra Ordinals Discord. And yeah, come join us in there. Should be good.
Cool.
Wait, are we done?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we're wrapping up here. Did you want to add something last minute?
I was just warming up, man.
All right, we'll have
No,
to
I'm kidding. Yeah,
have to make it a two-parter.
yeah, part 2.
Yeah, appreciate you all hopping up here. Very in-depth. You can tell that you guys know what you're talking about. Really appreciate it. This was another episode of Neo Tokyo Interlinked, partnered with the Neo Tokyo News team. Thanks, Zahai and Phoenix, for hopping in here. You can listen to these episodes, our recordings on Spotify and our YouTube channel. So check any of our past episodes out, or if you missed part of this, you can go back and listen to it. We'll be back with another one shortly, and I think the next space will be the NFT Monday update from the Neo Tokyo News team. So head out on Monday. Thanks, everybody, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, guys. Bye, everyone.